All right, welcome to IG Live. We're excited to chat today with our newest studio partner, the founder Christine from Prema Yoga in California. She is joining us now. All right, I see you here, Christine. Let's see. Good about this. Okay, maybe I was feeling good a little too early. We'll try again. Oh, wait.
Hey!
It's one of those days, right?
We did it.
I was
That is so
emailing
funny.
Christine earlier this morning. I had that thought at 4 a.m. When you wake up and you go, oh, and I realized that
Yeah.
we're based in New York City, and we had been discussing the times, and I had said 10:30.
Yep.
Selfishly thinking, well, obviously she knows what I'm talking about, and you did know, and I panicked and changed it about.
Oh, so funny.
So I appreciate that. Thank you so much for being so flexible with
No problem at all. I know. And then just now I'm like, okay, I'm clearly doing something wrong. Let me get my 21-year-old daughter, come in here and help me. Like, what am I doing?
There's always something. There's always something.
So funny. Okay, good. We did it.
We did it. So can you introduce yourself before we start?
Yes, of course. My name is Christine LaMonica, and I am the founder and now co-owner of Prema Yoga Studio in Granada Hills, California, which is in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, so when you open
Yes.
for someone that doesn't know the area, how would you describe the area of Granada Hills?
We are in the northern part of LA, and in the San Fernando Valley, if that means anything to anyone. And so as far as the valley goes, we are in the northwest part of the San Fernando Valley. And yeah, we're in what's kind of colloquially referred to as Old Town Granada Hills. We have this little strip that has a very kind of old town kind of feel with shop fronts right there on the street, and it's just really sweet and nice, very walkable. Yeah, we have our Granada Hills holiday parade that goes down that street, and is a fun annual event. And yeah, so it's a nice little town. We love Granada Hills. I've lived here for many years.
Would you say it's a little bit like a Hallmark movie town, or sort of your Main Street USA?
Yeah, it is a little bit, because it does have that kind of old town feel, and it is very community oriented, and like people know each other, and the studio too has a very community feel. Yeah, it's really nice. We really like Granada Hills, and I've lived here in Granada. I've lived in the Valley really my whole life, but lived in Granada Hills for almost 25 years now.
Wow. So how long has the studio been open?
We opened the official storefront because I was operating as Prema Yoga, but kind of subleasing space and like karate dojos and stuff like that for about a year. And then I opened the actual studio in October of 2014. So we're heading up to our 10-year anniversary. Yeah, we had to shut down, of course, during the pandemic. That was kind of a crazy time. But the students stayed with us. We taught yoga. We did it in the park and via Zoom, which we're still doing via Zoom, actually.
Yeah.
And yeah, and we just kind of kept it together. And now we're back in a studio space that's right up the street from our original location. And yeah, and it's going really well. We really love the community, and our students are so wonderful and amazing. And yeah. Things are going great.
Studios that have been open pre-pandemic and now, I want to say optimistically say post-pandemic, but I always sort of hedge myself a little bit when I say that. Current situation, let's say current situation. Do you find that your attendance and sort of your community has bounced back? Are you back to sort of the pre-pandemic numbers that you had, or is it still sort of a growth process with that?
It's still a growth process. People are still making their way back into the studio. Although I would say it's going really well. People are coming back. We have lots of new people. We do have a slightly smaller space now than we did before. We were, just kind of being cautious, getting back indoors, not really sure how it was all going to fly. But it's going great. I mean, it's definitely building, and we're seeing growth and new students coming in all the time, and yeah, it's going well. We have a 300-hour teacher training that we're moving through right now, because we did several 200 hours, and we even did one during the pandemic, and then we have another one starting in the winter, I guess technically in the winter, because it's in February. I was going to say spring, but it's really technically winter, because we're going to start in February. So but yeah, it's going well, and yeah, we're very hopeful for continued growth and to get back to the numbers that we had pre-pandemic. I don't think is a unrealistic expectation.
What was that like for you as a studio owner, going through that process? I mean, I know for a lot of people, I don't want to bring back memories of something.
It's okay.
But I always wonder, because you were open for a good chunk of time before, so you kind of some studio owners I speak to, they had just opened before, they'd been open for a long time, so I think their sort of relationship with what happened is very different. So you sort of had a little bit of, you had your foot in the ground to prepare, I guess you could say. Not that anyone could prepare, but what was that like for you personally? How did you get through that time when for a little while we were like, what's going on? Like, how do you get through that?
Yeah, it was rough. We actually had 2 locations kind of near each other. Then we did a little bit different things in each one. And, at first we're like, we'll just power through, like, well, it'll be fine. We'll get through it. No worries. And then, as it started to drag on, and the rent and whatever, and it was just like, oh my gosh, I can't keep paying all this money and not have people in the studio. So we made the really difficult decision. Well, I say we, it was really me at that point. I was just me by myself, but made the decision to shut down the physical locations just to save the capital, like it was just, we would go seriously into the red if we had kept it going. So made that really hard choice to let go of the physical spaces. We did yoga in the park, had really wonderful people. Lucky that we live here in Los Angeles, that the weather is amenable almost all year round. I feel so grateful that we got back indoors right before we had a really rainy winter, which we hadn't had during the pandemic. So it really worked out. Thank goodness it worked out well, but it was a tough choice. And then, as the pandemic started to wind down and things were opening up again, it was like, well, should we? Like, do people want to be inside and do yoga again? And then at that point is when I really decided to ask some of the teachers if they wanted to partner up with me, and like, let's do it together. It's a lot of work, to do by yourself. And so it turned into a more of a collaborative effort as we came back inside. But boy, it was difficult. It was a very challenging time. And it's hard to know, like, I don't know. We just kept plugging away, we just kept being in the park. Students kept showing up. And so we just kept doing it. And then it all just sort of came together, and we got into the space that we're in now. It just sort of happened. As things do, and here we are now, a year later. We've been back indoors, and things are definitely growing. I'm really grateful for the community and the students just sticking with us, and slowly but surely, coming back. And it's been really nice.
Do you find, in terms of what your students are wanting or asking for in terms of classes, has that changed at all since before the pandemic versus now? Or do they still want sort of the same offerings that you had before?
Yeah, that's a great question. We, before the pandemic, it was almost all of the classes were 90 minutes. We would have hour and a half classes, all kinds of different stuff. Now in the second studio that I opened up a couple years after we initially opened, that had more of like fitness classes and yoga with the TRX, or we had weights and HIIT classes and stuff like that. Those were shorter. but our yoga classes were all, you know, like 90-minute flow classes or restorative or whatever. So from the length perspective, that's been a big change where, you know, it's people kind of wanted an hour or 75 minutes. So I'm kind of old school like that, and I really like the longer classes.
Right.
So now we have, you know, mostly 75 minutes. We do have several 60-minute classes, which we didn't really have before.
Wow,
and just a few 90-minute classes now, just a handful.
Right.
But from the perspective of the type of class, yeah, people are still interested in the strong flow classes, but then they also, I feel like there's a little bit more leaning into the restorative and the softer kind of classes. I feel like that has picked up a little bit more.
Yeah.
We're hoping to get back into a bigger space where we can have 2 rooms and do a little bit more of the fitness stuff again, because people definitely liked that, and I've had several requests for that. Like, do you still have the TRX? Are we gonna ever get back to that? And I'm like, I still have it. I still have it. We just need a space where we can really put it up and you know, get that going again. But yeah, it's changed from the perspective of the amount of time, or like the length of classes are definitely shorter, because that just seems to be what people want. But style wise, yeah, there's still interest in all the things, but I do sense an increase in the loving of the restoratives and the yin and, you know, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
We have another partner who's actually watching right now, Shari, the owner of Karma Kids, and she says that they actually have now 30-minute classes as well. So it seems to be a trend, and she's based mostly here in New York City. So I'm curious why people want shorter classes. I don't know personally, and I'm curious what your best guess is why they would want a different length of time. Are they busier now, or do they?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think part of it was practicing on Zoom, or practicing, you know, watching something on your phone or your laptop or whatever. And it's harder to stick with a 90-minute class on your laptop or on your phone or whatever.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You know, so it was, that part was harder. Being in the park where you don't have necessarily all the props, the walls, the things that you would have in the studio. So the formats during the pandemic kind of lent themselves to the slightly shorter format. And so as we've come back, it's just kind of, people are sort of used to that now. And the teachers too were like, I don't know if I can go back to 90-minute classes.
Wow. So it's everybody then. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. And Shari just commented, people have shorter attention spans now, which I feel that personally. Quite honestly, that my attention span is quite a little bit shorter.
It's a personal thing too. Yeah.
Has your personal practice changed at all since the pandemic as well? Or, I mean, practicing, you said over 25 years, have you seen a shift in your personal practice?
You know, I have, but sometimes I think maybe it's just because I'm getting older, you know?
Yeah.
Because I used to be like hardcore Ashtanga, you know, like vigorous practice. And now I'm like, you know, I don't necessarily need to do 100 chaturangas in my one practice, you know? So I definitely, I do think it's a little less intense. Like, I even feel like myself kind of leaning into the, let's do a mobility class. Let's do, you know, more stretchy stuff. So it has kind of calmed down a little bit in that way. But that said, I still have handstands and arm balances, and, you know, I do appreciate and I do enjoy a strong practice. So yeah, it has changed a little bit, but, you know, my heart is still kind of in the fun flow classes, and, you know, let's challenge ourselves, get a little sweaty, you know, do fun things that maybe we can't quite do, but maybe someday we'll do, you know.
Like open more yoga studios. Like, let's do more.
Yeah, that too.
So before you opened your studio, what did you do? Did you have a previous career, or was it always yoga? Did you have like I always say a life before yoga?
That's so funny. I did. I had a whole other life, actually. So when I first started practicing, which has been, gosh, it's so weird to think, over 25 years. I mean, no, over 20 years, not quite 25, but close. I I was like, I had always done active things, you know, working out. I was in gymnastics as a kid for many years. I did triathlons and fitness contests and martial arts. So I was in kickboxing, and I do like my kickboxing before I started practicing yoga. And it was my friend from kickboxing who was like my sparring partner, and we'd work out together and all that. And she's like, you got to come take this yoga class. And I was like, what? Isn't yoga for old people?
Right.
I was like, who does yoga? That's weird. And she just was like, no, it's great. You'll love it. You'll love it. And I was like, the only reason I went was because she wouldn't shut up about it. And so I went because I was like, if this will make you stop, then let's just go and get it out of the way. And we went, and it was definitely you know, a challenging, sweaty class. And I get in there and I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna kick all your asses in yoga, you know, that's how I do. And then I'm in down dog, and I'm looking around and like, how is everybody doing this? Like, I was dying. I was just sweating. I was so tight in my chest and my shoulders from all that kickboxing. And I just but I could do a handstand. And I could do a headstand. And so I'm doing things that other people can't do at all. And then they're doing things that I can't do at all. And I'm like, what is this? This is crazy. Like, this is I don't know. I think she's right. I do need to do this more. And so I just started practicing. I, you know, tried a couple places, tried some different classes, and just really fell in love with Ashtanga and the challenge and the flow and just like everything. And so did that for a long time, and then was like, I think I want to do a yoga teacher training. And at the time I was working a day job. I, you know, was working in like financial planning in retail. So, you know, markdowns and all that stuff, margins and whatever. And so it was a really numbers spreadsheety kind of job. And that's what I had been doing in various incarnations in different places for some years. And so I did the yoga teacher training, and I was like, I kind of like this. And I started teaching yoga, and I was like, I think I want to do this even more. And so then I thought, how could I be like the best possible yoga teacher? So then I'm like, I'm going to go back to school and get my master's degree in kinesiology. And then I'll really know some stuff. And in the process of doing that, like, I just started going back to school and all of that, I got laid off from my day job in the 2008, 2009, like that whole crash. I lost my job during that time too. And I was like, okay, well, I guess this is a sign from the universe that I should just teach yoga and just do yoga things, because I'm transitioning to that. And so that's it. And so that's what I did. And I just started teaching wherever I could, got my master's degree. And gratefully, the university where I was going to school took me on. So I started teaching there, teaching yoga, teaching a couple lecture classes. And that really like gave me the support that I needed to continue teaching at studios, and then ultimately to kind of go out on my own and open my own studio and all of that. So I still teach at the university, actually, in addition to, in addition to the studio and all that stuff.
So so it was great that you had that sort of finance numbers background, right? And that's very helpful, because that's one thing. You're a business owner at the end of the day. As much as you love anything, you have to, that business part, and you've been in business for many years. So obviously you're doing something right. So that definitely is a huge help. But going from being a teacher to being a studio owner, like, that's a huge shift, right? I mean, because now it's like you see behind the curtain a little bit too, right? So how is that? I mean, you kept with it, so obviously it worked well, but that must have been a few surprises along the way with that as well.
It definitely was. So part of my journey was, after I had done my teacher training, I helped manage the studio that I did my teacher training at for about a year. And so I did have a little bit of exposure to the running of the place, but to be perfectly honest, I didn't know what I was doing. You know, the person I was seeing at the time was like, you should just open your own studio. And my dad was like, yeah, I'll help you. I'll give you some money and, you know, to kind of get you started. And I was like, okay. And so I just kind of found a place, and like, this place seems good. And, you know, like, got a lease. The landlord was like very casual, and it was just like, oh, I see that your studio name like has 5 stars and you have great reviews, so don't worry, we'll just do it. And I was like, okay, great. And yeah, and I just asked my yoga teacher friends, and do you want to teach at my studio? Like, what are you doing? You want to come teach over here? And it was really like a complete winging it. I didn't have a business plan. I didn't do anything. I was just like, I'm going to open a yoga studio. Okay, let's go find a place to put it. And it was, an absolute blind, seat of my pants kind of thing. And it thankfully worked. I mean, I think definitely my financial background and the fact that I am a kind of organized, detail-oriented sort of person anyway. But it is a lot. It is a lot. And I don't love the running a business aspect of it, but I do love having a studio and being able to like do whatever I want and whatever workshops I want, and just like being my own boss is definitely for me. Like that suits me very well. So when we came back, that's how I was like, maybe some of the other teachers want to own a studio too. And it doesn't have to just be me by myself. So that's how I recruited some of my teachers and my sister-in-law. And so I have 3 partners now, and just amazing women. We're like an incredible team. Thankfully we work really well together. And we've all known each other for a long time. Well, my sister-in-law was new to my 2 teacher friends that are partnering with me, but I have known collectively everyone for many years. And we just, we're a great team, and I'm super grateful for them because they definitely help with a lot of the day-to-day stuff. And it has eased the burden of running the studio, because it is a lot. I mean, you're running a business. I am a business owner, and it's so funny because when I was working in business, everyone was like getting MBAs, and I was like, ugh, gross. I don't want to do that. Like, oh no. And then here I am, So funny life.
Well, and it's almost like you have the perfect combination of like trusting the universe and sort of, for lack of a better word, common sense, grounding, financial background as well, which I think is the best combination for owning a business. Like there has to be a level of winging it and just going for it, and the background to sort of back it up if it does work,
I was really lucky that I did have a really nice combination of life experience and just kind of how I am. But for sure, all that financial stuff helped a lot. Just not being scared of numbers and spreadsheets and all of that was not a big deal. I built a website, I just like did all these things that I never thought I would do. But I also think that, going to grad school helped me with that too, because grad school was huge and challenging, and I did all sorts of things I never thought I would do. And so that kind of laid the foundation for being kind of making that bold move of just like, okay, let's do it. Why not?
If one of your students came to you and said, I want to open up my own yoga studio, I'm excited, I want to do this, what would be the best piece of advice that you would give them, like, to get started on that journey?
Oh, wow. A good one. I would say if they wanted to open a studio, my suggestion would be to just make sure that you have like supportive people in your life that can, help you out. Because I mean, even though my parents weren't like physically helping me do things, they were financially helping me, and they were just so supportive. And my kids too. I have 3 kids, and they were also very supportive. And my partner at that time was also very supportive. Like it was a lot of like do it yourself. Like we put the floor in. We did did a lot of the things ourselves. And so just having a really good supportive team, I think, can make all the difference. Because I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have all those people behind me helping me and supporting me. Even if it was just emotional support, that kind of stuff, that's helpful too. And if you have partners, make sure you know them, because I do have a former student. Well, she's still a student in our teacher training, but she opened a studio with someone, a couple of people that it just didn't work out. And she went in thinking like, this is going to be fine, but it did not turn out fine. And she's okay now, thank God. Like it all worked out for her, and I'm glad for that. But yeah, so that part is like, make sure you know the people that you're getting into business with. Like I can't emphasize that part enough. So,
and that's good, like general life advice, right? Like have supportive people around you and know who you're with. I think that's great. You know, we all have those skills, and if we just tap into those things and remember them when we're starting anything big. And I like the fact that you mentioned that support comes in so many ways. It can be financial, it can be emotional, it can be physical. Like, I will help you put this floor in. Like, I will give you my time. Labor. I always said to a friend of mine, like, my love language is time. Like, when people give me their time of day or time to do things with them, like, that's the most valuable thing to me. So I think that's great to remember. You know, support comes in so many shapes and sizes, and to get it where you can.
100%.
Well, Christine, thank you so much for chatting with us today. It was great to meet you and hear about your journey. Is there anything coming up that you're really excited about, like any retreats, or do you have a bunch of teacher trainings? You have some retreats coming up, I saw, in California, I believe.
We do. We have our 200-hour teacher training starting in February that we're really excited about. We're, kind of midway through a 300-hour, but we do have a really lovely retreat coming up at the very end of May in Big Bear. So it's nice. Beautiful up there. And the spot that we have is really nice. So we're very excited about that. And that's at the end of May, but still, so that's a fun upcoming thing. I guess the biggest one is our 200-hour teacher training that we have coming up in February.
And do you offer that over Zoom as well, or that's all in person, your teacher trainings?
We do. We do have Zoom options. We've built in now that we have one weeknight in the mid, like our 200-hour is like a full Saturday, Sunday of many hours, and then we'll have a 3-hour on Wednesday evenings, and we do the Wednesday evening over Zoom. And so that's kind of built into it. It just makes it's really nice, and it's kind of easier for everyone that way. And then we do record. So we do Zoom everything and record all the sessions. So we make those recordings available to all of the students for a whole year.
Oh, wow.
And so we do have the online option as well. And we did do a whole teacher training solely online during the pandemic.
And that's great because people have such crazy lifestyles lately, right? Hybrid, in-person, off-person, like offering all those opportunities to sort of to get the teaching still. And it's great that you have them for a year as well, so people can always go back and refresh all the information.
And they do really appreciate having the recordings to go back to, because it's so much information, a 200 out, like you're taking in so much. It's really nice to be able to go back and just listen and hear the stuff again. It makes a big difference.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for supporting us. We are a small business.
Welcome.
We are a free magazine, and we are only free thanks to the support of people like you and your studio. So when our Joy issue comes out, which will be in June, you will be getting a box of magazines for your community and to share the joy.
People loved that first edition. They were gone so fast. If you want to send us more, we'll take them. I don't know if you have any more, but
absolutely, we have a handful of boxes left. I can get you another box for sure. So we'll get that out to you guys to share. And thank you so much for joining us today. And yay, we did it.
I know, yay.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Take care.